This is the part of the program where I talk to you. And Barbara said, talk about what I'd learned in the past 8 years since I've been gone. And oh my God, life, right? I mean, it comes on. This teaching is so powerful. It can get you in a headspace where you just think everything is perfect, which is great, right, to think that way. But sometimes it feels like, for me, you're riding down the road, clear day, in a convertible, top down, and you're feeling so powerful that even with the wind blowing, it's not blowing your hair out of place. You're just going down the road, and then all of a sudden, bam! You get hit from the side or from behind, and your car starts spinning around, right? Life. And after 23 years in the science of mind, which Devon reminded me of, what happens for me is the very first thing I think of is, thank God for science of mind. Thank God we have a teaching that allows us to, in the midst of the spinning, in the midst of the chaos, in the midst of whatever may be going on, that we got something to lean on in terms of who we are, right? That we are powerful, creative, spiritual beings. That the truth is, as Barbara was just saying, that we're creating from within, that we can be our own cause. It doesn't really matter how we got here. The car's now spinning, and I need to remember the truth. We all need to remember the truth in those moments. And so Barbara talks a lot about this teaching not being for the faint of heart, and that's really true. But for me, it's also become a life raft. It's become something I can lean on in those moments when something happens, a circumstance that I may not be particularly happy with. Have you had those? Circumstances, whatever they may be, big, small, whatever, that aren't what you really thought was going to come out of the plan you made. God laughs when there's plans, but there's no God out there, so it's you laughing at yourself. Isn't that fascinating? As we go along, right? Tangent, threw myself off there. So, for those of you that don't know, I was the music director here. I then became a practitioner. I then went to ministerial school. I then met the woman of my life who lived in a place I promised myself I would never move to. And I wound up going out there because I was so in love and wound up scoring one of the few jobs as senior minister that's available in Los Angeles at the Burbank Center for Spiritual Living, which turns out to be only the 11th center ever in the history of our movement. So I score this job, and they have a stage. Now, as I say, I was a music director here. I've been up on this stage a lot, not in a very long time. It's really kind of fun being back up here. The stage, the carpeting, a lot of the Burbank Center looked like this. They actually had a bigger stage, but a smaller pit. And it was a smaller room. But it felt so much like here, it kind of felt like home. And so I was flying high. I'm like, I just scored the job of a lifetime. It paid really well. I had, I walked in there. I had a board of directors that was supporting me like crazy. And then, and I'm strutting a little bit. And I go in there, and my very first day on the job, I get a call from the power company saying that we owe them $5,000, and so they're coming to shut us down. Now, that was not just my first day on the job. That was my first hour. When I walked into my nice new office that had its own fireplace, and I'm just feeling it, and it's like, whoa, they're coming to shut us down. And so what do? After 23 years in this teaching, I go, time to treat. Time to know the truth. Because I got a yes for this job. And whenever we get a yes, whenever our being says, this is ours to do, I have learned that means it's going to work out. Now, I don't know exactly how. I don't know what it's going to look like. I've let go of what things are going to look like ages ago. But I do know that the quality of things are going to develop in a way that's going to have this work out. So I'm on the phone with this person, and I'm treating as they're speaking to me, right? Because I need to keep them on the phone. I need to work this out so somebody doesn't show up and shut down the center, or if they're going to, figure out how all that's going to work out. And so I treat and get a quick download about how to handle this, and before we got off the phone, had worked out a payment agreement. So they did not come and shut us off. And now I'm starting to think maybe I should have taken a closer look at the financials. Now, wouldn't it change my mind? I got the yes to have this job. So wouldn't it change my mind, which is why I didn't look at him in the first place? It didn't matter, because I was going to take this job because it was mine to do. And that's what happens, right? When it's yours to do, sometimes crazy things happen. Okay, 2 days later, I get a call from the telephone company saying we owe them $1,500 for shutting off the phone. 2 days after that, I get another call. I don't remember about what, but we owed them money too. Oh, it was our insurance. We owed them money. And so all these things came down. And so I took a look at what it is we needed to do to continue. To even continue. And so the first thing I noticed is they had a choir director and a music director, and they were paying both of them. And this is in a center that not only was all in all this debt, but had one of the great things that happened was the former minister on his last Sunday said, you don't have to stay here with the new minister. You can come with me. And almost half the place left before I started, which included some of the bigger contributors. Well, now I've got this center with about 30 people showing up on a Sunday, and they have 2 music directors. So I go, one of them's got to go. And I talked to them both, and they decided they actually decided which one would stay and which one would go. I thought I handled it in a good way. But there were some people in our congregation who were furious that I would let one of them go, and I lost 3 of my biggest contributors at the next Sunday. And all this time, all I'm doing is leaning on the fact, really leaning on the fact that I got science of mind, that I'm a powerful, creative, spiritual being. I got a yes about this. Now, whatever's going on here has got to work out, and so I just got to hang in here with it, right? Because it's going to work out. I'm going to keep getting downloads. This is going to keep working out. Things are going to keep moving and moving around. I just got to know it and not get freaked out about the fact that our income has just dropped significantly. Our bills are still the same, except we owe all this extra money that I have to somehow figure out, how we're going to handle that. Sit down the board, great board, and so we just start talking about how are we going to handle this, because obviously the finances that they had thought were the finances of the place weren't. They were really out of touch with what the actual monies were of the place. And so time passes, as time does, right? Time passes, stay in focus, keep leaning on. I mean, that was the real deal, was keep leaning on that I'm a powerful, creative, spiritual being. This is going to work out. I got the yes. That wasn't a kidding. It wasn't my higher self going, just kidding. No, it was a real deal. I got the yes. And so this meant this was going to work. I just didn't know how. But we kept working it, and Sunday after Sunday, we'd change things around, and people started showing up, and things started moving in a very, very, very positive direction after about a year and a half. First year and a half. It's rough stuff. But it was okay. When you get these things that set you off, that go, oh my God, how could this, what do I do with this? This seems like too much. How could it be too much? Each one of us holds the power of the entire universe and more. What is too much for the universe? Remembering that in the midst of all this kind of stuff going on, that's the key. And that's why I say practice, 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 because I've had people call me, As a senior minister, you get a lot of strange calls. And I got a call more than once from somebody who said something along these lines. I have been studying the science of mind for 25 years, and I am not getting any results. Why? And I always give them the exact same answer. Studying is not enough. You got to practice. And you got to practice when it's hard. Yeah, Barbara said something in, I think it was last week, in the thing that we actually printed up on our wall at the center, which is to abandon the truth in your hour of need is to not understand the truth. And I had to remind myself of that every single day, so much so that I thought, let's just print it on the wall. So I had the administrator just print it on the wall. And there it was. Every day I walked in. To abandon the truth in your hour of need is to not understand the truth. Truth is, we are powerful, creative, spiritual beings. We are the source of our lives, and we get to bring that forth in expression in ways that we can't even know. And I've noticed that I can't even know. Being up on this stage is a notice that I couldn't even know. When COVID hit and everything went south, it was clear to me that it was not mine to do any longer to be the senior minister of that center. So I informed the board that it was time for me to leave Los Angeles. I never liked Los Angeles in the first place. I loved my job. I loved being the senior minister of that center. But I knew that I could not continue in LA and that this was the perfect moment to move on. And so my first thought was, I've always wanted to live in a foreign country. I've never done that. This would be a good time to give that a shot. I talked to my wife about it. She says, okay. We looked around, did a lot of research, and came up with Portugal. We were moving to Portugal. I took the lead on it. I gathered all the paperwork, put it all together, all the requirements, everything they were looking for, knew we were making more than enough money to satisfy their requirements and all that stuff, sent it off to them, and they sent us back about 6 weeks later saying denied. And that's because we've changed the requirements, and now you need to send us bum on top of what you've already sent us if you want to get a visa into Portugal. So I'm like, okay, science of mind, I can lean on this. We're moving forward. I go ahead and get all the rest of the stuff they put together, and I send it off to them, and 6 weeks later they come back and say denied. We've changed the requirements again. And this time, I looked a little deeper into about what was going on here. And thought, you know what? Maybe it's time to go back to Asheville. Said my wife, maybe it's time let's go to Asheville. She was like, okay, sounds great. No hesitation. Boom. Within 2 days, we find a place to live. I'm not back here a week before John and Barbara ask me to speak. And all of a sudden, people are coming up and they're just telling us how happy they are that we're here. The welcoming has been extraordinary. Now, if I had gotten in my own way, my smaller self, I would have said, let's try again for Portugal. But we have this ability in this teaching to tap into something larger than ourselves that can guide us on in ways that we never would have expected. I would never have expected to land in LA in the first place. I actually had made a promise to myself that it was one place on this planet I would never live. Never say never. That's right. But by following what was truly higher and calling me, by not being stuck in that which was less, I was able to move forward in a way that I never anticipated. To being here and the healing. Barbara was talking about healing in that video. The healing that I have experienced since arriving back in Asheville has brought tears to my eyes on more than one occasion. It's amazing to be back. And it was the perfect place to be. This is the perfect place to be. I walk in those doors. I helped build this place. I designed the sound booth and the pit. It's my connection here is gigantic. And it feels like home. And I would have missed it if I'd wound up in Portugal. But I didn't, because I got, I am a powerful, creative, spiritual being led by my higher self to that which is highest and best for me. The way you are being led to what's highest and best for you. And there's no way you can know what that is until it plays itself out. Right? Because there could be all these things that happen along the way that look like way no fun. So this is a teaching I have learned to lean on. Yes, it's true. It's not for the faint of heart to get into it. It's also true that many people come into this teaching in a way to control their circumstance, to become prosperous, have more money, be healthy, find that perfect relationship. But once you're in this for a while, you realize there's so much more than this. There's who you're being. I have noticed for myself that the more I am who I am meant to be in this world, the circumstances take care of themselves. That I don't have to worry about or think about the money, the relationship, my health. As long as I am standing at that place where I am being my best self, I'm not letting myself down, not giving up on myself, like Barbara was saying. Staying strong in the fact that this teaching works. Thank God for Science of Mind. Thank God for this teaching. I don't know what would have happened to me without it. I have some ideas, but I don't really like to think about that much. What I like to think about is just the beauty and magnificence and miraculousness of how life can unfold for each of us when we are willing to dive in, lean on, and be with this teaching in a way of embodiment that goes beyond the norm positive, you're just positive thinking. No, it's way more powerful than that. Way more powerful than that. Right? Yes. You've all seen this. I'm talking to the choir, right? Yes. I am talking to the choir, right? Yes. So I like to hear the choir. Yes. All right. I'm talking a long time here. I got one last story. There was a time after my last divorce where I had no job, no money, no savings. But I needed to move out and found, miraculously, a cabin in the woods that was offered up for free in exchange for fixing it up. And I moved out into that cabin, and I remember sitting my first day out there. I'm sitting in the center of it on the one chair I had, and could feel self-pity, what am I going to do and all this stuff, and then just went, wait a minute. My life works. Whatever it may look like right now, my life works. This is somehow, in a way that I can't possibly see at the moment, my life working. I realized that, delved into that, embodied that, and the phone rang, and it was a job. It was a job with more than enough to support me living out in that cabin. From there, I earned enough to support my way through ministerial school. From there, things just kept developing to where I started the very first online, I started the first online center for spiritual living called Yana. I wrote a book that's used in over 50 centers called Cliff Notes on the Science of Mind textbook. Chuck has a bunch of copies of it. So if you ever want to actually see what I wrote, talk to Chuck. I met my wife, and we have this astounding relationship that is beyond what I ever anticipated relationship could be. I mean, in terms of what we share and how we are with each other. I mean, it grew out. That was the seed. That was the moment. We all have these moments when things are at their lowest, when things look like all is lost. And those are the moments to lean on this teaching the most. Those are the moments that make the change. Those are the moments that lift us up. And those are the moments that set up everything that happens after that. I look back to that moment and I go, thank God for Science of Mind. Thank God I was able to be in that moment and be with that then, because of all that's happened since then to get me here with you now. Which I am just so happy to be here, I gotta tell you. This is huge for me. Being up on this stage, talking to you. I love you all very much. Thank you.